One of the most amazing discoveries about learning and the human brain is that while understanding something new might be instantaneous, like taking a photograph, this initial understanding alone is not very useful. The reason initial understanding isn't very useful is because in order for your brain to effectively use the information in different situations, your brain has to grow between 100,000 and 100 million new connections. These new connections essentially create the new programming that gives you the ability to do something that you couldn't do before, kind of like a new program for a sophisticated computer. Scientists often call this ability to effectively use information adaptive reasoning skills or mastery. If the brain doesn't grow enough connections, mastery is never achieved. And without mastery, it is impossible to improve performance. As bad as not achieving mastery seems to you now, the real situation is even worse. This is because if the brain doesn't grow enough connections to achieve mastery, another process we call forgetting takes over. And even what was initially understood fades away and is forgotten. Now, if you've already decided that you are only interested in systems that create mastery, then you can stop this video here and go on to the next video. In the next video, you will learn about the patented technology that BrainX uses to accelerate the growth of the connections that produce mastery. However, if you still aren't sure about how essential mastery is for your learning application, then keep this video running as we do a short experiment that will show you why you should never again consider a learning system or a course design that doesn't have enough post-lesson reinforcement to produce mastery. For those of you still watching, there is one more amazing research finding about mastery that will revolutionize your thinking about training and education. To demonstrate this finding, I'm going to ask you to participate in a short brain experiment. For this experiment, you're going to do 2 math questions. I want you to try to do each question in your head without the aid of a calculator or even a pencil and paper. Don't write the problems down. The purpose of the experiment is to observe what goes on in your brain as you answer the questions. The other important thing to know is that you have to really try to answer the questions, otherwise the experiment won't work. Are you ready? I'm only going to say each problem once, so you have to listen carefully. Here is the first problem. Multiply 10 times 1,000. Then double the number and add 10. Did you get the answer of 20,010? If so, you should be proud of yourself. All right, are you ready for the second question? Same procedure. Try hard to answer the question, and I'm only going to say it once. Here is the second problem. Multiply 267 times 43. Did you get 11,481? If not, don't feel bad. Almost no one can do this problem in their head. The question is why? After all, most people, if they have a pencil and paper and enough time, they know the multiplication rules well enough to easily solve this problem. The reason the average person can't solve this problem in their head is they lack the number of working memory slots required to remember the problem, the steps required to solve the problem, the results of each step, so they can carry the results on to the next step. Most of us have 4 to 6 working memory slots. However, under pressure, thinking about what might go wrong or what someone just said uses up half the slots, so we are left with only 2 or 3 slots to process the problem. Now, the really interesting question is not why weren't you able to answer the second question, but why were you able to answer the first question, which involved more steps and was a more complex question? The reason why you were able to answer the first question is that when you were in elementary school, You mastered the rules for multiplying 2s and 10s, and your brain never lost the programming. But there is one incredibly important thing about this programming. It operates in your subconscious processing centers, which are far more powerful than your conscious processing centers. When I said multiply 10 times 1,000, the answer of 10,000 was produced in your subconscious and just seemed to bubble up into your conscious thinking. On the other hand, when you had to do the second problem, you were forced to use the rules of multiplications that you could recall but hadn't mastered. Therefore, you had to try to consciously execute these rules one step at a time in your conscious thinking centers, and you simply ran out of working memory slots. The sad fact is that most learning systems on the market today don't produce mastery. They teach material to get initial understanding and then quickly give a post-test before the material is forgotten. These systems ignore the brain's need for the reinforcement over time that stimulates the brain to grow the connections that produce mastery. On the other hand, the BrainX system was designed from the ground up to produce mastery. The BrainX system uses patented technology only available from BrainX that dramatically accelerates the growth of the connections that produce mastery. Now please close this video and watch the rest of the videos to learn why the BrainX system is by far and away the most effective learning system on the market today.